Katie Tremulis. I am the founder of Roadmap to Ron. And today I have Reynaldo Torres here. He is a notary and also a permit runner. So I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the channel and tell me a little bit about yourself and your business.
Thank you, first of all, for having me. I'm so grateful to be here talking with you guys about my journey. So a little bit about me. I am originally a communications major. I went to college to study broadcasting and filmmaking. And by the time I got out, the job market was less than kind for people in that field. So I knew I had to find something to start making money very, very quickly. And in 2018 is when I first discovered permit running. My dad, who's in construction, he was accompanying a roofer that he had been introduced to go drop off some paperwork, and we showed up to this apartment complex, and there was a young man who ironically, and I think the universe just having crazy timing, he had a disability similar to mine, but his was going to get worse over time. And he had a simple desk in his apartment set up with a printer and a couple tables, and around all of these tables were just stacks of paperwork and plans, and he had like a nice little setup. And I kind of got curious. At first I didn't know what I'd stumbled in on. I thought, what is going on here? And the roofer told us that this young man, all he did was permit running, processing permits for contractors and different clients. And when we got back in the truck, he asked me, he said, well, would you be interested in doing something like that? And I really at first didn't know what it entailed and the amount of work that went into it. And I had just started a master's program. So I said, well, let's hold off on this idea and I'll come back to it, I'll revisit it. And then finally, 2017, I graduated with my master's, and still the job market was crazy. And so I went back to this idea and I was sold on it. I stuck with it ever since. So it's been an incredible process. And now I am the CEO and owner of my company called Resilient Run. We are a permit running and a courier service here in Miami, Florida. So right now it's just me, but I am in the process of training a couple of other notaries, bringing them on to learn the ropes of courier services and things and other parts of the permit process. And so looking at my journey from 2014 when I first found out about it to now, it's just remarkable. And I'm happy to be here sharing it with you all.
Of course, yeah. And so for someone that has no idea, what this is, I wanted to kind of ask you to outline it as well, because for the notarization part, or to become a notary, that is always something that people hear about, like that you can make money as a notary.
Right.
Talk a little bit about more of the construction / permitting side for someone that has no idea what it is.
Of course.
You do.
Yeah, of course. So honestly, with permitting, I should just point out that, I wasn't a notary when I first started permit running. My dad would use another notary that he knew in the neighborhood to notarize the documents, but he would bring the documents to me to upload to the portal, because by 2018, there was no more physical running them to the building department, hence the name permit runner. You had to, upload everything online, especially after, the pandemic and everything happened. But for those of you who are brand new to it, really the process is you will have to download from the building department website the documents for the different trades for the permit that you are applying for. An application, sometimes there are supplemental forms involved if you're doing a roof, if you're doing electrical, if you're doing mechanical. There's so many different trades, but you will have to download the application and the supplemental forms, and then you will have to have those forms notarized by a commissioned notary, signed by the homeowner, signed by the contractor. Now signing those forms is when you physically go to the contractor, meet with him to sign the forms, meet with the homeowner to sign the forms that they need to sign. Once that's done and you're gathering all of the other supplemental documents that the contractor needs to sign or fill out, you will take these documents, you will scan them as a PDF and you will upload them to the building department portal for submitting permits. It is a lengthy process to learn how to do this, and building departments have graced us with these on the website, sometimes these 10, 15, 20 page guides on how to download documents and what to look for. It's a lot of information, but if you're willing to be the student and learn the process and familiarize yourself very, very quickly and do a couple of these, it becomes seamless. It took me several years to, of course, I had to really jump in head first when I first got started, and there was really no time to sit there and let everything marinate. But if you have the time to invest, you can learn very, very quickly. It's very, very repetitious, but if you're a quick learner, you can grasp very, very quickly, as I did.
And so for the price points, how much do you typically charge for just the permit running itself?
So just for the permit running itself, so that would include what I like to call, I look at it as different phases. So there is notice of commencement recording, which that is still a physical run that you fill this form out, get the homeowner to notarize this form. And what this notice of commencement is, it lets inspectors know and code enforcement know that work is scheduled to be commenced, is scheduled to be started here. So once you're running that could be $100 to have that recorded. And then there is the full-on service, which you can get paid $150 for. So that is what I like to call meeting with the homeowner and the contractor to get the form signed, uploading the forms, scanning the forms to your computer, uploading them to the portal, tracking the process, handling corrections. That is usually, the price point is usually $150 to $200, depending on the agreement that you make with the contractor. Sometimes it can be more, sometimes it can be less. It just depends on the agreement that you make with them. Because if they're really, really desperate to get this permit done, they will sometimes tell you, look, this has to be handled within 24 hours. And sometimes they will add on an extra bonus for you to get that done. So again, the usual price point is $150 to $200, but you can get paid a lot more depending on the agreement that you make.
And so, obviously there is going to be a good amount of the learning curve, but let's take you, for example. How does it typically take you for the whole process to do a permit? Let's say everything goes pretty smoothly.
Pretty smoothly. I mean, are you talking when I first got started, or are you talking about right now where I am in my business?
I think right now, because that's for one of the things that when I talk about different ways of income, sometimes they hear the number in the very beginning and they're like, well, it took me 2 hours. So let's just say that we went past that. Right. Everybody pushed through. And they're at the stage that you're at. How long does it typically take you once you're experienced?
For me, once you're experienced, and this all depends on the building department and how they are, how they work, because what I've learned in my experience is that now I can do a roofing permit sometimes in 30 to 45 minutes. And there are some building departments that I've done permits for that are up north that don't require as much documentation and supplemental forms and paperwork, and their process is literally a couple clicks of a keystroke, and so you're talking about sometimes 15 to 20 minutes depending on your familiarity with the system. For me now, some of these permits, I can do them now because I've been doing this now for 3 years. I can't believe this, but now it can take me 30 to 45 minutes, under an hour, to get a permit done, especially with the relationship that I have with this contractor. It's literally, hey, I'm using this roofing system, I'm using this, and once he tells me the product approvals that he's using and the product approvals that he normally uses on a lot of his roof jobs, I have that information, I have the cost, I have everything I need to go, so I can just boom, 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 go. So now 35 to 45 minutes. But and that's assuming that you're experienced and that you know what you're doing. Don't be intimidated by that though. I will say take your time, learn what you need to learn. If you're first doing a permit and it takes you an hour or over an hour, you're learning, familiarize yourself, don't try to speed through the process, because doing that, you will miss a signature, you will miss something. So, but once you build up the confidence and the courage in your mind, and you know the process at the back of your hand.
Yeah. I think that is one of the things that when you're first starting out with a business, like the amount of grace that you have to give yourself is like significant, because it's frustrating. And especially like, I know for me, I would hear other people that are like, oh yeah, I can make this in this amount of time. And I'm like, well, it took me 2 hours. Like, it's we're done.
Right.
That's just the price of admission though, because it does get easier. And especially like, if you do have a mentor, if you have someone that you can kind of go through and learn the ropes from, it does lessen the time. But at the same time, like it's a brand new skill that you have no idea. So if you're frustrated, give yourself some grace.
Give yourself grace. I mean, let's look at me. Let's go back to about 2015. When my dad first gave me when I first learned and I saw what the process entailed, I was like, what is going on here? And then watching this young man and how experienced he was, I mean, he was just go, 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 go. And I'm like, whoa. And then, like I said, I was in a master's program, so I really pushed it to the side. And then 2020 came along. And my dad handed me a roofing permit, and he's like, and at this time, the building departments were closed, so there was no physically going into the building department. And all of this had to be done online. So imagine having to learn the portal, having to fill out the documents, having to learn how to properly name the documents or tag the documents to upload to the building department. I was like, what am I doing here? So give yourself grace if you're learning, because having 20 or 30 pages in front of you and having to learn all of that, it's a new skill that you're developing. Yeah.
And then the other thing that I wanted to kind of, do you know about, or have you kept track, excuse me, have you kept track of how many permits that you may have processed within a day, or like, do you have a price point of how much you've made within a day? Just because I always like to say, like, this is what it could be like once you push through the initial discomfort.
So for me, for example, the highest that I've made in a week has been about 1,300.
Okay.
And then in a month, my highest has been, so far, it's been about 2,100 in a month between handling, corrections, submitting corrections. My contractor's really great with, if there's an overflow of paperwork and it's, corrections are coming in, he will hand me sometimes 100, 150, say, here, take this for doing, for doing great work. So adding in new permits, my highest has been $2,100. Of course, if you scale and you have more than one contractor you're working for, your income can be a lot, greater. It depends if you're working with solar companies, roofing companies, and you're recording their notice of commencements, and that's the only thing you're doing for them. Like I said, if you have 2 or 3 or 4 contractors that you're doing work for, your income can be greater than that.
The some of that is always daunting though, because like you're learning the ropes, and then like I wouldn't necessarily, because I did that on accident. Like I got more clients than I could have dealt with, and I dropped the ball a little bit. Now, but like there are systems in place now. So setting up the initial foundation, like none of that is fun within a business, but like,
and having, having a team that you can offset work to. A perfect example, last week, my contractor was on vacation and there was still things that needed to be done. And so one of the permits that we had done needed an affidavit on the job site to be able to schedule the inspection for the next day. And my partner, who's also a permit runner and a courier, my business partner, he was already up in Fort Lauderdale dealing with something else. And he says, well, I'll come by and get it. And I'm like, you mean to tell me you're going to drive from Fort Lauderdale back down to Miami where I live to drive back up to Fort Lauderdale? I'll take care of it. So I got in the car and I let my contractor know, hey, I'll drop this off for you. I know this is important. I'll handle it. So I got in the car and I drove up to Fort Lauderdale and I dropped it off. And he sent me $125 for that courier service because it was something that needed to be done. Yeah. So that's another way that you can surprise yourself. You can make money just by doing something as simple as that. When a contractor says, hey, I need these pictures dropped off, I need this affidavit dropped off, I need this permit picked up.
Yeah. And that was the other thing that I also wanted to point out is that there are other, like notaries that also pair this with loan signing. Yes. And so, multiple streams I think is always going to be the best way to supplement your income. For sure. And as a notary, we don't have, unless you sign some sort of non-compete, which I wouldn't necessarily do. You can take on as many clients in all of these different income streams. So it's not just like permit running that you would do, there's other people that are, they do permit running and then they do weddings and then they do so something is always coming in the pipeline. And I think that's important for the way that our world is today is that we need options.
You need options, just in case that, one client is not producing the income that he was producing last month. You can pick up work in other areas. There's field inspections, there's loan signing, there's permits, there's estate planning. I mean, honestly, and I tell every notary that has found me on TikTok that has asked me about the process, I will tell them this. Get into as much as you can. Mm-hmm. Of course, pace yourself, but you want to be able to offer different services. And don't forget about general notary work. I mean, I still will have family and friends that will call me up and say, hey, I need this affidavit signed, or I'm doing, and that all, because it all adds up at the end of the day. And you never have to necessarily worry about having your back against the wall or through the roof if you set it up right. But of course, give yourself grace and give yourself time to learn the things that you need to learn, because there are systems and processes in place.
Yeah. And I also wanted to point out that one of the other things that I didn't realize in the very beginning, but now I very much value, is the fact that I think that it's so important to start making the relationships with the other notaries, especially like you. Yes. So like if there's someone that comes to me and they're like, hey, can I do a permit? I'm like, I don't know what to do with those. And I'm like, Ray, can I send this over to you? And then there's that reciprocity, right? So like there are things that I need help with that I will reach out to you. And then if you ever reach out to me, like it is very much a give and take. And one of the things that I thought was so nice is coming into this, the sense of community that really does happen to build businesses. Yes. So.
And I just want to point out that this young lady, I forget how we met. I forget how Instagram or social media put us together. Yeah. But watching her journey and watching how she has brought people together is something that I try to inspire other notaries who come to me. It's like, this table is never going to be too full to where you can't bring on other notaries. Like there is honestly no competition, in this area from what I've seen in this space, because the number of transactions that are notarized every year, a single notary could not do 2.8 million billion, things by themselves. And once you build those relationships with other notaries, like a couple have found me on TikTok and they want to learn what I learn, and I'm giving them, another thing is, I don't believe in gatekeeping information. If God gave me the gift. That means I can gift it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Right? And Katie is awesome at that. I mean, if there's ever someone that comes to me for remote online advice, I'm going to pass them on to her because she is the GOAT with that.
Thank you.
And you've just done an amazing job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it has been a lot of different like mindset shifts where I'm like, oh, I don't have to just keep everything like so close because I'm worried that other people
are gonna outdo me. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that in the very beginning. I was like,
right.
I'm not gonna grow.
Right. Like even for me, when I first decided to step back into YouTube and start putting up content, I was like, do I really want to give up what I'm doing? Because the chances are, somebody might come along and make more money than me. And I'm like, you know what? So what if they make more money than me? Like, I want that for someone who is really out there trying to look for something. I want them to be able to do that. So, and as I started doing that, the fear of being outdone in the competition, it just went away. Like now, anybody who asks me, I'm like, hey, I direct them to one of my videos, or I, give them my phone number, question me. Like, that's what I'm here for.
And that was the other thing, is that I originally thought that too, where I was like, if I show everybody how to do it, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening is they'll come to me and they're like, hey, I have this, or I have this really big opportunity. I need help, or, do you have any other notaries? Like, with my mentorship group, there are people who approach me that are like, do you have any other notaries that are really good at remote online notaries? And so, I'm like, okay, these are the top people in my group, so
when you're building and when you're trying to build an empire, a small business, again, we cannot literally be in 12 places at one time, right?
Yeah.
So if there was someone in Fort Myers, if there was a contractor in Fort Myers that came to me and said, well, hey, I need something done. Katie, hey, I'm delegating this to you.
Yes.
If there's someone in Orlando, it would take me 5 hours to get to Orlando from here, but hey, I know a notary in Orlando. You build those connections so that you learn to offset things and you learn to be okay with it, because, build a big enough table where everybody can eat.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because we do both have the same mindset when it comes to, building stuff out and then also pushing each other, which I think is important too, because the sense of community, it can be really difficult to be like, okay, I'm doing this and it's all by myself and I don't know anyone else.
Right.
And we both have been making platforms where it's like, you're not alone, you can reach out. Like, this is something that everybody can do. And it's not that scary.
It is not. Like I said, and going back to this, when I first started, it was scary because I did not want to mess up.
Yeah.
Because
that's very common.
You're on a deadline, especially with permitting. You're on a deadline of okay, the contractor wants to get this in by XYZ time because the roof needs to be done, or electrical work, or it's a violation, it's a red tag permit. So you're on a deadline, and so me having to learn, I was like, oh Lord, and again, no real mentorship, no one saying, all right, this is what you do. This is the pitfall. But now, if I can be that for someone else,
exactly,
why not? I mean, educating people, empowering people to let them know this is one of the single-handedly the best businesses that I've come across. And I've tried multi-level marketing several different times, and I've tried, and this is one of those businesses where it's like, there's a need here. You are an asset to a lot of companies, law firms, contractors, title companies, because they need you. And what's interesting about this is, I always tell people, contractors are paying us for the skill, because it's a skill that they do not like to deal with. They don't like to deal with paperwork, and they will gladly pay someone $150 to $200 because you're allowing them to focus time in the field, on the job site, managing the guys, managing everything else that they need to manage. So you become an asset to them. And once you start building relationships, I mean, even with the customer service people at the building department, it makes the process so much simpler.
Yeah.
So,
because that is also something that I have run into, and like even for my own mindset, where I'm like, why would a contractor pay me when he can just do it himself?
Right.
I've talked to a contractor, and they're like, I don't want to deal with paperwork.
I don't want to
like,
deal with it.
They're like, I don't want to deal with the portal. I don't want to deal with the technology.
Nope.
Like, it's not that, like, they're like, I'm not uploading documents.
I'm not.
And I'm like,
my contractor told me firsthand. He was like, he's been in business 45 years, and he's, for all of you guys out there listening, this is no picking at one particular person, but he's an older gentleman, and technology is not there. It's when you are used to doing a certain process, a certain something this way for 45 years, and now this comes along and says, well, no, you have to do it this way.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't have that capacity to learn a portal, learn how to upload, learn how to download and do all this stuff. So I really need help. Like, he was really reaching out for help. Like, I want to bring you on. You're smart. You know this process. Please help me. So, you talk to them, and they will, if you lined up 10 contractors and you ask them, hey, why would you pay someone $150 when you can do this yourself? Katie is right. They will tell you, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. And in some cases, like, depending on the contractor, depending on the job, it makes more sense financially for them to go out into the field and get, a big bid or do a big quote, because that is going to bankroll them. And then in the time that it would take for them to, one, figure out everything, and two, go in and deal with all of the issues. Because, like, we said that it could take 30 to 40 minutes. That's not always the case.
Right.
And so, that time frame, like, if you think about the opportunity cost that these contractors are not having to deal with because they start delegating.
Yes.
It can make a lot of financial sense to get in front of those types of contractors.
And, it's not always the bigger fish that you want. If you can get a big contractor, to work with, great. But those smaller contractors, those mom and pop contractors that you automatically think, you're prejudging, like, I don't know, are the ones that will give you the steady work.
Yes. But that's the other thing is that I've stopped discounting. Like, I'm like, no, they're not gonna, like, why would I pitch, it's like, they're not gonna use me, or they're not, it's like your own limiting beliefs. There is a lot of limiting beliefs when it comes into marketing your own business and starting to get in with people, where I'm like, no one's gonna pay for this. And then it's like, people are gonna pay for this, and they're gonna pay you for it.
We're gonna pay for this, yes. I mean, even with title companies, there are title companies that sometimes we, as contractors and permit runners, we have to be in front of them to submit closing documents when a project is done, so contractor affidavits of exemption, and so all of these things. And a lot of the times we have to physically go in and drop off the documents. So, hey, that is your way in to meet with people. Even if they say, and don't be discouraged by this. Don't be discouraged when they say, well, we already have our person.
Yeah.
People get sick. People go on vacation. People quit. That can be your opportunity to fill in for that person while they're on vacation, while they're recovering, or once they see your work ethic, you could be the go-to person that they now call when they need affidavits dropped off, or when they need courier services, or when they need something picked up. So don't be discouraged by, well, we already have our go-to permit runner, our go-to notary. Leave your information anyway.
Yeah, and sometimes, honestly, the life cycle, like the time horizon in the life cycle of marketing to the different title companies, the law firms, I have been marketing to some of the same law firms and title companies for years.
Yes.
And like it's never, none of it has ever come of, but there has been enough times where people are like, all right, Katie, like I have this emergency, can you actually do this? And I'm like, yeah, I can.
Yes, I can.
And once you get your foot in the door, it's like, yes.
Yes.
So, you know, it's a long game. It's very much a long game.
It's a long-term investment. Yes, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
my friend, one of my great friends from college, recently started his law firm.
Mm-hmm.
Every time, well, not every time I talk to him, but more than, every week when we do catch up, hey, if you need help, let me know. If you need me to come to the office and notarize something for you, let me know. And it's a repetitive process of marketing your business. But eventually, if they know you're in business and they know that you are on time, you're professional, and you can do this, you'll start getting those calls more often than you think.
Yes.
Because eventually they will say, all right, let me give this man a bone. Let me give this lady a bone. She keeps calling me, Lord have mercy. And then once you do that, once that happens, and they see your work ethic, they see your process, and they're like, oh, all right, I'm going to call her from now on. I'm going to call him from now on. And a lot of times the life cycle is you may do one or two things for them.
Yeah. But
in the future, you never know. I mean, that's how it happened with me. I was asking my dad, hey, do you think Mr. Thomas could use me? And he's like, well, he already has a guy, but keep talking to him, keep building the relationship and see what happens. And finally, 2023 is when he asked me. It just so happened that the girl that he was using to do permits, she up and left. And he needed someone. And he said, well, hey, do you know anything about permits? And I said, yes, of course. And I thought at the time it was going to be maybe one or two. I was still in, like side hustle phase. I was like, all right, maybe one or two.
Yeah.
When I started seeing more than two, when I started seeing 3 or 4 in one day, and then by Wednesday, another 2 or 3, I was like, oh, this is a full-time thing. So just keep marketing and keep putting yourself out there.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time frame.
Thank you so much.
And the knowledge base. Like, if there is anyone that is in Florida that wants to reach out to you about, like, talking about maybe sending permit work to you, or doing some sort of mentorship, how do we find you?
So I am my personal, which I'm working on rebranding my social media on my permitting page. So for right now, my Instagram is RayT90, RAYT90 on Instagram. You can reach me, my phone number, 305-607-2581. But DM me first with any questions you may have, and then, I can figure out how we can communicate, how I can help you. But reach out to me on Instagram, and I'll be more than happy to answer all of your questions. Any Florida notaries out there that are interested in the permitting process, reach out to me. I am putting together some workshops in the near future, so be on the lookout for those.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.